let's go ahead and dive in. And like I said, we're going to be talking about all things meta today. And hopefully, this will be helpful regardless of what org type you are. So, we're going to have examples and helpful tips for associations, nonprofits, and arts and culture organizations. I'm Isa Hasty, Senior Manager of Product Positioning here at Feathr. I'll let you introduce yourself real quick, Brock.
Hey, I'm actually the customer success program manager now. I guess we need to update these slides.
That's my bad.
All good. That's a very recent title change. So yeah, my job is to help you all work as well as you can in Feather.
Yep.
Yep.
And we wanted to give a special shout out to Nadia. So Nadia she's on your team, right?
She's on the campaign managed services team.
Okay. She weighed in heavily on the content here and gave us a ton of insight and best practices and sent us a whole list of things to include. So wanted to give her a shout out because that is not in her job description and she took the time to help out with this webinar. So thanks, Nadia. And yeah, so let's dive into it. We will be sending out the recording and the deck tomorrow, so you'll get that in your email inbox. So no worries there if you want to revisit anything. So today we're here to talk about Meta, right? So there's three sort of main ways that you can show up on Meta and reach people. So there's organic posts, which a lot of you probably are doing some of that, right? So you might have a page or you might have a group and you're posting things organically, trying to get engagement, trying to get people to like, to share, things like that. There's boosting, which means you're putting a little bit of money behind the post through Meta and you're getting a little bit more reach. We'll talk later about what the reach actually looks like in terms of benchmarks and percentages, but boosting is basically taking organic, putting some money behind it, and getting it in front of more people. And then paid ads, you're actually running targeted ads, right, on Meta. And so this is the thing that you can do specifically in Feather that Brock is going to walk us through later on. But organic is free, obviously, so most people are probably doing it. We'll talk a little bit later about the nuance of, doing it as using organic social as a nonprofit versus an association, because I think a lot of associations tend to favor LinkedIn over Meta, but you don't actually have to choose, you can do both. And I think Meta, particularly Instagram, can be a great investment for some associations. So I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, organic posting is sort of the way to build community around your organization. So whether that's your member base or donors or people in your community, maybe volunteers, organic social is going to be the way that you can kind of consistently show up, share your story, share photos, show that impact, right? And the unfortunate part is that this only reaches 1 to 2% of followers. So Facebook and Instagram highly favor friends and family and personal connections over businesses. And so even if you are a nonprofit, you fall under that umbrella. And so you are going to have very limited reach with organic social. So again, this is kind of building trust, having a place where people can go and like learn more about you on Meta, but you want to do more than just post organically. So boosting can help. It can boost your reach from about 1 to 2% up to 10%-ish, which is decent, but you're going to get much more targeted and broader reach with paid ads. All right. So let's talk a little bit about organic. And if anyone has questions as we go, please drop them in the chat and we're going to kind of periodically answer the questions and check the chat and make sure that we're addressing those as we go. So go ahead and drop questions in. And also, if you have any best practices that have worked for you, or if I'm talking about anything and you've tried it and it worked or didn't work, I'd love to hear directly from you guys because you were the ones actually doing the work out there. So how the algorithm actually works now. So 50% of our feeds on Instagram and Facebook come from accounts we don't follow. So it's a lot of sponsored stuff, a lot of new content, right, from organizations, from brands that we don't actually follow, but we are being targeted based on our interest, our search history, who we do follow, things like that, right? So lookalike audiences, search history, all of these things. So they're using that to show us uh, brands and content that we might be interested in. But that would be why, Instagram went from being nothing but our friends' pictures to a total mix of like brands, influencers, things you've never seen before, people you don't know, mixed in with people you do know. And so that's just kind of the reality of how the algorithm works now. It's working a lot more like TikTok, right? Which is very much interest-based discovery with the For You page. And so this is where your content really matters. So actually having really strong content that is going to catch attention, get engagement, get people to share, get people to click. That's key. And that's going to put you in front of more people. And Facebook actually saw an 8% increase in time spent on Facebook after this shifted. So people obviously are responding well to being served, things that are based on their interests. And so this does sort of perform well. You just have to make sure that you are creating content and using targeting in the right way to actually show up. Um, and then let me see. I will talk a little bit about hashtags in a few minutes, Scott, but the current best practice is actually to focus on keywords rather than hashtags. So actually inserting keywords into your captions, your descriptions under your ads, and things like that in your posts. So just kind of really inserting keywords wherever you can because AI is going to be picking up on those. And so that's actually more helpful than hashtags. I don't know if like people should still use hashtags, but it seems like the trend is moving in the direction of doing keywords instead of hashtags. So, all right. And then let's talk about some benchmarks of reach that you can expect. Okay. Yeah. IG only allows 5. Yeah. So they're limiting it now anyway. It used to be, tons, obviously, per post, but yeah. Um, Okay, so level of reach that you can expect when it comes to organic, right? So you're going to get a 1 to 2% average organic reach on Facebook. And then average organic reach on Instagram is actually significantly higher. So you can get closer to a 15% reach when you're posting organically on Instagram. So that's not bad. Um, and then I included this. So 93% of nonprofits are using Facebook pages, right? So that means that you are engaging in these practices, you are trying to get that reach, right? And so you want to make sure that your content is solid, and that you're paying attention to engagement with your organic content to try to really, yeah, increase your reach and level that up. And then in terms of this stat for associations specifically, there's not a whole lot of dedicated benchmarks or metrics around association usage of Meta. So this applies more broadly to nonprofits, probably more leaning toward 501(c)(3s, maybe arts and culture. But anecdotally, I have noticed that associations tend to favor LinkedIn. And I have talked to association marketers who say that they actually don't use Facebook or Instagram because they use LinkedIn. So I think if you're really strapped for time, sure, it might make sense to run LinkedIn ads instead if that's where you're seeing the most bang for your buck and if that's where you're getting the most engagement. So posting organically on LinkedIn, running ads there, that's totally fine. But you want to remember that you are trying to reach individuals, right? You're not trying to reach businesses. You're trying to reach decision makers, professionals. Always think about your marketing as trying to reach the individual. And individuals are spending time on social media, right? So they might be on LinkedIn during the day. Also, people aren't on LinkedIn all the time. People are often on LinkedIn because they're between jobs, they're looking for jobs. People do network a lot on LinkedIn. So, for associations looking to connect with specific professionals in specific industries, LinkedIn does feel relevant. But those professionals are also on Instagram, on social media, right? After hours, during work, on the weekends. And so, those are places where you can reach them as well. And when people are on social media, I think generally we're more receptive to content. We might be a little bit more like ready to watch a 90-second reel, right? Versus like when you're on LinkedIn or something and maybe you're searching or when you're on the web, right? And you're seeing like display ads and you might not have the time to actually engage with them, right? So display ads are important for just like continuing to show up in different places, but Facebook and Instagram are where people are really going to be kind of ready to engage with content. And so you want to be showing up there if you can, and if you have sort of the time to manage campaigns in Meta. because again, you're speaking to people, individual people, and yeah, they're spending time on social media, so it's a great place to reach them. And then yeah, and then if you're an association and you're trying to decide between Facebook and Instagram, simply because your organic reach is going to be a lot higher on Instagram, I might suggest starting there, but it doesn't hurt to try both. All right, quick pro tip. So see what's working well with your organic posts, right? If an organic post is getting a lot of engagement, a lot of shares, comments, things like that, that means that it is performing well. And you might put a little bit of budget behind it and boost it so you increase the reach, right? And continue to get more engagement. So that's just probably seems a little bit obvious, but you can always use the work that you're already doing as tests to see where to put more money, right? Because your audience can tell you best what's working and what's not. All right, so what kind of content performs best when it comes to organic social? So we all know this, but photos and albums, right? That's a big, they're visual platforms. And so showing up as much as you can with imagery, with visuals, with photos of real world things. So that might be if you're an association or a member-based organization, it might be, people at a conference interacting. For 501(c)(3)s and charities, it might be, photos of a volunteer event or something about the impact that you have in the community. Museums, orchestras, arts and culture orgs in general tend to have really beautiful photography of events, exhibits, things that you're hosting. So definitely use that wherever you can. And just focus on featuring real people and real moments as much as possible. And then let me see, Missy, does it count as a photo when we've edited the photo to make it a graphic? So if you mean just like adding some text or something on top of a photo, yes, that should still count as a photo as long as you're posting it as a photo and you're not talking about like an ad or something. So if it's just a photo and you've added things on top of it, you can still post that as a photo or as an album, yeah, or part of an album. Okay, that's a great question, Gabby. Does boosting organic posts cause distrust in younger audiences? Um, I would say the answer is yes. If we're being honest, I mean, I know that I tend to be more wary when I see the word sponsored. Um, it boosts your visibility, and you will be getting in front of people who are receptive to traditional marketing and advertising, right? So, depending on who you're trying to reach, I don't know what type of org, okay, nonprofit. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, reaching younger people is a huge goal, right? And you don't want to be off-putting for younger audiences. But as a nonprofit, I assume that you are looking for major donors, people who are going to have more disposable income. So you are trying to get in front of people who might be on the older side, right? Middle-aged or older. And so they will be less, put off by seeing the word sponsored, I think, on average. So I don't think that you necessarily should avoid boosting posts just because that visibility and reach is important, just for building awareness. But yeah, I think that's my take on that. So I think it just depends on who you're trying to reach. If you're exclusively trying to reach a very young audience, I think there's still a case for doing it just because of the increased reach, but it's really kind of about testing out what works best for you. And I think paid ads are a great way to kind of do that because you're you're able to control that a lot more, right? So it's sponsored, but you're able to sort of have more control over the audience, the targeting, and get in front of the most relevant people for you and your warmest audiences. And you have a lot more control over sort of the actual content as well. So hopefully that's helpful. Cool. And then video content. So reels, right? You have this on Facebook and Instagram. Keep them shorter rather than longer. So I would say 90 seconds is even a little bit long. So definitely under 90 seconds if you can, but on the shorter side, you just want to make sure you're capturing people's attention and keeping it. And stick with impact, education, just information, adding value, right? Don't be too promotional, at least not every time. There's a time and a place for it. There's a time to make that ask, right? Especially during times like giving seasons, or if you're really coming up close to an event or something like that, you can be a little bit more, you can ask for more, but generally people want to learn from you. They want to feel like they're getting value and they want to feel seen. So think about what the user is going to actually want to see and create stories around that. impact stories go a long way. And so this is going to be considered the most genuine sort of content that you can be putting out there for younger audiences and for everybody. So people respond really well to, stats about impact, photos of impact, proof of real world um, change and impact, right? So people want to give their money to a cause that they know is really making a difference. People want to register for events that they know are going to be beneficial for them, for their careers, for their organizations, right? So you want to make sure that you're leading with that always. Okay. And then let's see. And Facebook groups outperform pages. So you if you're on Facebook, you probably have a Facebook page for your organization. You might not have a group set up. They are a lot more work to manage. And so if you don't have somebody on board who can really kind of manage that actively, you might not want to invest in that right now, and that's totally fine. But they do get a lot more engagement just because they're groups and people are kind of treating them more like a forum. And so they're going to show up more in general on people's feeds because there's more engagement and interaction happening within the group. So if you are running a group already, or if you are planning to try it, one recommendation is to try to get it to feel as personal as possible. So maybe you have somebody on your leadership team, maybe you have somebody who has some kind of like brand recognition or name recognition among your audience or your followers. Get them, if they are willing, to post in there sometimes, to answer questions, to interact with people. People really love feeling like they're connected to the people in your organization, especially the people who are making the decisions, the people whose faces they've seen at events, things like that, right? So if you have someone at your org who was a keynote speaker at your conference, or, that people are just going to recognize, it's great to have them be present in that group and kind of really showing up. Um, and also just for associations, I think Facebook groups are kind of like forums. They're really great for networking. And so if you're an association and you're thinking about a Facebook group and you feel like you have the capacity to run that and manage it, definitely go for it, because there can be some great networking and interactions happening in there for professionals. All right, let me check the chat real quick. Okay. Um, Okay, when doing reels, a nonprofit is seriously limited in musical choices. I found that I have to mark us as an entrepreneur in order to get modern music. I'm not sure, Amy. I don't actually know the answer to that, but that is not cool.
Luckily, Joanna actually gave us the answer a couple chats down.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Brock. Okay, work around by finding a creator that made an audio as original audio. Okay, cool. Um, All right, I'm reading your response, Brock. Okay, you're answering Cynthia's
I'm
question.
sorry, I am answering Cynthia's question.
Yeah,
Yeah, it took a
okay,
while to type that.
cool. No, no problem.
I am still in favor, and this is Brock speaking, but I am still in favor of boosting impact stories. But there's a difference between boosting it to the audience that Facebook or that Meta gives you as like a default $5 will show this ad to 1,000 people audience versus an actual tailored interest-based or first-party like Facebook page followers or website visitors audience. I would only boost to the people that I know are going to be interested, which is not necessarily the ones that Meta will present you with in that like easy click this button and it's done sort of approach.
Cool. Joanna, no worries. I feel you. That's me almost every day. Okay, yeah, Canva's great. I love Canva. I use it a lot. It's so user friendly. So if you are not using it, definitely do that if you don't have a better tool. Especially if you are a small team or you don't have an in-house designer. I think everyone knows about Canva, especially nonprofits, but in case you somehow don't, use it. It's amazing. Okay. And yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks everyone for weighing in there. All right. And this was what I was mentioning earlier. So using keywords instead of hashtags, that's kind of the trend now. So AI-driven discovery is now what matters more than hashtags. So be sure you're thinking about that. Um, and in terms of finding keywords, there's obviously tools that can help you do this, SEMrush, Moz, there's tools like that that kind of help you think of keywords, which can be helpful if you're running Google Ads or search keyword campaigns as well. So All right, so let's talk about paid strategy. So paid ads. So this is where we're really getting into the actual ads, right? The targeted paid ads. And again, Brock will walk us through how we can do this in Feathr directly. But here are some quick benchmarks. So median cost per click for nonprofits on Meta when it comes to paid ads is going to be around 39 cents, right? And this is just to kind of give you some benchmarks just so that you can compare where you're at with industry standards. Because I think sometimes it's helpful to just see 1.4% is the average click-through rate on Meta ads for nonprofits and associations. And this is a good click-through rate, but it's not like crazy high, right? So if you're at, 0.9% or 1.2% or something that feels low, it's below industry average, but it's not that far below, right? And if you're above this, amazing. But aiming for this or above is the goal. And I think it can just help to kind of have an actual benchmark to compare yourself against. And then $2.20 is what you will earn back for every dollar you spend on ads when you're targeting highly specific audiences. And so the more specific you get, the better ROI you're going to see because you're just getting your ads in front of people who are more likely to convert, right? Um, All right. And how to allocate your budget. So there's different opinions on this. This is kind of, I think, what's broadly agreed on. Some people argue kind of for the reverse of this, but I think here internally we recommend this sort of divide. So this could be 25%, this could be 15. You can obviously play around with these numbers, they're not exact, but you want to be putting the majority of your budget into brand awareness, right? So really getting out there as much as possible. You want to be targeted with this and you want to get in front of relevant new people, but this is where you're going to spend most of your budget. And then when it comes to retargeting and really staying in front of people who have engaged, who have visited your website but left without converting, you can invest a little bit less, right, than your awareness campaigns. And then the actual conversion campaigns, acquisition campaigns, where you're really getting people to make a purchase, make a donation, right? These are cart abandonment campaigns, things like that. You're going to invest less, right? Even less in those. And so this breakdown kind of might be helpful for you if you're not sure, where to allocate your budget when it comes to paid ads. Okay. And then let's see. Okay, and then seasonality can come into play when it comes to competition, right? And where you're how much reach you're going to get, right, when you're bidding. And so the typical cost per click year round is 39 cents, right? Like we just said. And in November, this jumps to 54 cents on average. And so retail advertisers are just flooding the auction basically in Q4 with whatever they have to sell to people around the holidays. And so this drives up costs for everyone, which is kind of a shame because nonprofits are doing some of their best work at that same time, right? And so people are going to be seeing a lot more, and it's just going to be more expensive to cut through the noise and show up for people. So you will have to spend, it's wise to spend a little bit more, obviously do whatever makes sense for you and keep an eye on your campaigns as they're running so you can move budget around, increase, decrease based on performance. That's where good reporting comes into play, right? You want to be able to see what's going on with your campaigns as they're running. And so Feathr offers a great dashboard where you can see everything in real time. You can move budget around, right? You can see all of your different campaigns in one place. And so this is a great way to kind of make sure that you're allocating budget the right way and increasing it if you need to at end of year. So pretty much go into end of year assuming that this will be the case. For associations as well, it's a little bit different because you don't have as much of an end of year push unless you have an end of year event, right? And so your busiest pushes might be at different times than the general sort of retail advertisers, right? But just keep this in mind for any end of year advertising. Starting a little bit earlier is best. So starting in October is just going to set you up for sort of building that momentum before it gets too crazy. And then emotional video storytelling will always, improve your click-through rate and improve engagement. So one cool sort of tidbit that I actually I got this from Steven Screen's keynote, Brock. We were both at Nonprofit Storytelling together last year in San Diego. Brock and I were. And we saw a keynote speech from Stephen Screen, who's a nonprofit consultant. And he talked about what works really well and what doesn't when it comes to the messaging that you include in your ads when you're doing fundraising, right? And one of the things that he really emphasized was focusing on one unit, whether that's talking about one child and how many meals they'll get, or one animal that you can help, one neighbor in the community, right? And so people respond really well when they can kind of wrap their mind around who it is that they're helping or what it is that they're doing and feel like their money is going to make some kind of real impact, right? So instead of saying your neighbors, your community, when you can, play around, maybe A/B test to this in ad copy, right? But play around with focusing on one unit instead of a sort of broader kind of impact and see if that, yeah, kind of gets a little bit more engagement in terms of people feeling like they can, yeah, people understand that and can contribute. Okay. Yeah, Brock will walk through retargeting and what you can do in Feathr versus Meta and Feathr in just a few minutes. So let's wrap this up. Okay, so for creative best practices, right, when it comes to paid ads, you want to get people to stop scrolling and engage with your content. So we kind of went over this before with like what content formats to use, but this is just a little bit more about best practices for what to include and some other quick things. So if you are posting multiple photos, obviously post the best one first, right? So if you have an eye-catching photo, make sure that that's first. So that's going to show up, right, as people are scrolling. And then bold, short, hook text, make sure that that is, you're leading with something that's going to grab people's attention, minimal text on your creative. So this is kind of up to you what your actual ads look like, but in general, keeping it, leaving some blank space or some white space, breathing room, basically, having a hierarchy, having a clear call to action and a clear sort of header, right? You want people to be able to see it quickly, kind of consume the content and know what you're trying to tell them. And then a CTA is not needed in the image when it comes to meta ads. So this is really important. I think the next slide, yeah, we'll talk about why that is. But just some quick examples of things that you could say. So like member discount ends soon. I actually ran a webinar a few weeks ago where I was talking about early bird campaigns, and two or three people in the audience said that early bird messaging isn't really resonating. It's not really working for them anymore. I thought that was interesting. Curious if anyone in this group has found that as well. But I find myself like using that as an example a lot. And then now I'm kind of like double, kind of overthinking it and wondering if it's actually the best. Okay.
That is
There
interesting.
we go. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's just like the same kind of thing of people being wary of like getting duped or something. It's like, okay, this is kind of a early bird, like that's kind of like a traditional marketing tactic. Like I know there will be tickets later. I know I can do this later. Um, the panic for a few spots left, yeah. Yeah, 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 exactly. And like really leading with something specific, right? I mean, a member discount is a real thing. Um, Early bird is too, but I think it's like overplayed a little bit. And so if there's a specific member discount and you can kind of remind people, like, you're a member, you get benefits, you'll get a certain price, and that's going to end soon. And they're probably already somewhat likely to want to register because they're a member. Maybe they need to go to the event and they haven't done it yet. Reminding them that they get the discount is great. Um, Okay, let's talk about why you do not need a call to action in your actual ad creatives. CTA is call to action, Sonia.
Thank you, Michaela.
Um, yeah, thanks, Michaela. Okay, cool. Alrighty. So the reason you don't need a CTA in your actual ad that you're creating, whether that's in Canva or Adobe or wherever you're designing your ads, right? You don't need to include a button there because that is already included. Meta includes that, right, in the text below. And so the way that this is sort of formatted is you're going to have your primary text, and this appears above the ad that you've created, right? Um, in someone's feed. And so this is your main message. You want to keep it concise, but this is kind of going to be like the hook. And then the headline appears below the image, so your ad in bold. And this is going to be this is the hook. I'm sorry. This is the hook. This is what people are going to read, right? First. And so you want this to really catch people's attention. And then the description comes below the headline in smaller text. We've all seen ads on Facebook, right? So we kind of know what these look like. And so this is optional, but it can help to add some description there. And that can be where you insert those keywords, right, to help with AI-driven optimization. And then, yeah, you can see all three fields. You can see a live ad preview in Feathr of your meta ads. So you can kind of see exactly how it'll look laid out. This is something you can do when you're using Meta natively, but you can do it in Feathr as well. So it's kind of a helpful view. Um, okay. And then just keeping in mind all of this as you're designing your ad creatives, right? So you don't want it to be too redundant. Like if you're thinking of kind of like a hook or a tagline or whatever, you want to make sure that what you're including in the ad copy isn't the same as what you end up including in the headline, right? So you're operating with a lot of different kind of like places where you can insert copy. And so really thinking through what you want the headline to be versus what you want the copy in the ad to be versus what you want the CTA to say, which again, you don't include that in the ad. You do that through while you're setting up the ad campaign, right? Through Meta. Okay, and some quick ideas for different sectors, right? So if you're an association, you might be doing a membership drive, so you could retarget people with member benefit testimonials, right? So you could create some ads that talk about the benefits of being a member, discounts, CE credits, right? So different things that could be beneficial for members and target them. Event promotion. So if you're promoting a conference or an annual meeting, you could do some videos of, last year's events, maybe video teasers, highlight a keynote speaker, things like that. So there's lots you can do in terms of the content for those ads. Make sure you're retargeting past attendees. That's a very, very warm audience, members and past attendees. And then advocacy, so action focused ads with petitions or CTAs to contact your rep. So this is also this is a common thing that associations are trying to do. And so paid ads can be a great way to get in front of people as they're scrolling to make them aware of a specific cause or a specific thing that they should sign or get involved with. For nonprofits, if you're doing fundraising, obviously, use emotional storytelling, use donor stories, volunteer testimonials, things like that, anything that feels human, anything with good imagery. And then if you use Facebook fundraiser, that can actually cost or cut the cost per donation down by quite a bit. So to be eligible, you have to be a 501(c)(3), and then you also have to get set up with PayPal Giving Fund specifically. And so there's eligibility, requirements on Facebook fundraiser. If you just visit the page, you can learn if you're eligible and if you can get set up. But if anyone in here uses that, um, drop in if that is helpful for you or if you've seen a meaningful difference in terms of ad performance. And then for general awareness, you can use impact stats, before and after stories. And then you might run a campaign to people who look like your newsletter subscribers, right? So you can do this in Meta. And then volunteer recruitment. So again, getting in front of people who might be, likely to volunteer, maybe past volunteers who have visited your website and left. You can target them, right? They're warm. You can get in front of completely new people who kind of align with your mission and might be interested. And then last but not least, museums, arts and culture orgs, orchestras, all of these. You're probably trying to drive attendance to exhibits, programs, different events. And so showing imagery of those events, right? Showing beautiful photos of whatever you have to offer, your museum, videos of, if you're an orchestra and you have videos of a show, right, with beautiful music, show that if you can. A lot of the time things will be on mute, right? It's automatically going to be on mute. And so don't rely too heavily on sound. Always have subtitles, right? But yeah, this is going to be great for using that imagery that you have, as a arts organization. Targeting by geographic radius, obviously you don't want to be targeting everybody, right? You want to be keeping it reasonable and setting up geo filters so that you are not spending budget outside of a reasonable radius, thinking about who's likely to be able to come. and targeting within those parameters. Growing membership, so you might be selling subscriptions, season subscriptions, memberships, things like that. So you can highlight the perks in videos and in other ad content, and then education programs. So if you run, like an after school program or a mental health wellness program or anything like that, you can promote that as well. Target parents, target educators, school administrators, things like that, and try to get them to engage. Okay, and one last pro tip, monitor the comments on Meta, right, for prospects and questions. So people might be interested in joining your association, donating to your cause, volunteering. They might just want to know more about what you do. So that can be found in the comments. And then you can also end up finding people who are rude, who are complaining, whatever. And so you want to make sure that you're checking for that, not letting anything kind of go, under your radar, and making sure that you're sort of keeping up and feel like seeming present. You want to be present, right, in the comments, and also make sure that you have all your bases covered and you are, yeah, also getting any like prospects that might be, in the comments, but not actively going to your site and converting, but they're still there and showing interest. So. And then this is the view in Meta Business Suite of where you can see the comments and you can interact here. So if you're using Meta, you've probably seen this view before. And then some quick restrictions and rules when it comes to Facebook advertising. So these apply to both your ad creatives and your landing page. So when you run an ad, right, you're going to send people to a specific page. They might not click on it, but there's an associated landing page. And so the rules that apply when it comes to these restrictions also apply to the landing page. So make sure that whatever you have on that page kind of fits these rules. And so political topics can be filtered out. They can trigger, restricted category rules, financial content as well. So anything, and this is tough, I think, for fundraising campaigns, but you want to be, careful with like the language you're using around money. And then medical and health related content. So this could be health related claims, wellness content, anything like that. It can trigger disapprovals. It doesn't mean it necessarily will in every case, but just be aware of that and choose your language thoughtfully. All right, I'm going to pass it off to you, Brock, to talk
Okay,
about
great.
Meta and Feather.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Does that look good, Isa?
Let's see. It looks good to me. Can someone in the audience? I'm seeing lots of different
All right.
tabs.
Um, I
Yeah,
should be good here. All
awesome.
right. So when you are setting up your connection with Feather, it is very important to like kind of come prepared. You can chat our support team if you need help. They're available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. If you have any issues with the integration. But for most people, when you are working or when you are getting set up, it's actually very easy as long as you have um, admin access to both your page and your business manager. So as long as you have both of those, you should be good. That is kind of a priority before you even consider getting the integration with Feather set up, though. So I just wanted to call that out specifically. Also, if you are creating a new Meta Ads account for your ads, please don't use an alias for this. They do need to be connected to real people. Facebook will flag that sort of thing. All right. So somebody had asked earlier, who was that? Marcy, I believe, asked, who can we target in Feather? And I'm happy to be able to answer that here. So we can target your first party audiences with meta ads using either URLs that these people have visited or their emails. So if you wanted to make a group of people who visited your event URL and also add emails of people who had registered in previous years, you would be able to use that as the basis of a meta ad in Feather. I will note that you cannot target your like page followers with Feather ads. All of that sort of in meta targeting must be done within meta ads separately from Feather. But we do have different third-party audiences that we can target. So we can use some of Facebook's data to target people based off of their industries or professions, their hobbies. We also have demographic filters such as where they are located when they view the ad, their ages, job titles, income brackets, that sort of thing. We can use those to both expand or contract our audiences, and I'm going to show you what I mean there in a moment. And then lastly, we can also use Meta to target lookalike audiences. I'm going to show you what that looks like as well. But these have a high performance versus interest targeting because Meta is very good at identifying people who will be interested in the content that you want to share. So Oh, one last thing here. This slide looks like a mess because I'm the one who made it, not Isa. But I did want to call out if you do want to run ads like targeting your page followers or something, um, that's totally fine. But within Feather, there is a way to track the visits from those ads. So you don't have to have those two platforms be completely separate. You can make a tracked link campaign in Feather which will serve a URL tracking code just like this that will help you identify who's coming from what ads, and you can view their visits and conversions all within Feather. We won't get to this today, but just know, look up tracked link if you are interested in seeing more meta stats in Feather, because that's a very easy way to kind of synchronize your marketing across multiple channels. Okay, here we go with the live walkthrough.
Real quick,
Yeah,
Brock, I'm gonna launch a poll to see if anyone would like to see how you can actually do this in Feather. So Brock is about to walk through this, but just in case anyone needs to hop off at before the top of the hour, I want to give you a chance to sign up for a more detailed walkthrough of how you can run your meta campaigns directly in Feather. So go ahead and drop a yes in there if you'd like to talk to somebody about how you can do everything Brock is about to show you and a lot of what we just talked about. So go ahead and
perfect.
drop those in. And then, yeah, and I saw real quick, I saw you answered Paige's question, but yeah, Facebook fundraiser is more of just a social media based, like peer-to-peer tool. It's kind of similar to TikTok's nonprofit hub. I think it's called Nonprofit or TikTok for Good. And so it's just kind of like a subsection of the platform that, kind of favors nonprofits and offers you some benefits. I think Facebook's lets you like have people convert directly on your Facebook page instead of having to leave, right? Because Facebook wants people to stay on the platform rather than going to your site. And so it's, you can have like a donate button directly on your page to keep people on Facebook, but still get them to convert. So there's like perks like that when it comes to Facebook fundraiser. And I think most of the social media platforms offer that. But yeah, Feather fundraising is like specifically donation pages, donation forms, and marketing tools.
Cool. Thanks, Isa. All right. If you have visited these webinars before, you have seen me in the Feather Playground. This is where the Feather team goes to break things and experiment and just use fake data that we can't hurt. So I'm working in here. I'm going to call the campaign Meta Ads, and I'm going to deepen engagement with this fake campaign because I want to show you everything that we are capable of, and this is one way to do so. I am going to first select my channels. I'm actually going to show you display and meta side by side because you can use one campaign to target both display and meta. But if you were interested in only targeting meta, you would be able to do so just by selecting only meta. First step is connect or select the already connected accounts. So we have one called Pony Playground. We are going to be running ads on Instagram and Facebook together. And special ad category, Isa talked about this in one of her slides, but we do not have a special ads category here for the ads that I'm going to select. If you are running ads on behalf of another organization, you are welcome to do so as a monetization campaign and use them as an advertiser, basically sponsoring your posts. But since that is not the case here, I'm going to proceed without selecting one. So the first step in any Pixel Plus campaign here is selecting your audience. If I find group created for test meta retargeting. And look at the filters here. URL visited contains feathr.co. I mentioned earlier that the ways that we can create audiences in Meta or audiences for Meta ads are through URLs or through emails. So these are the cookies and also the email addresses of anybody that we have ever seen visiting feathr.co. All of that is thrown together here with 19 or 20,000 people. Below that, I can actually expand our ad audience here by using lookalike. Um, you can keep it really tight here and expand that to maybe as few as 10,000 people. You can go very broad and have a 10 million audience of people that look like these individuals. However, that is going to be pretty much anybody with an internet connection at that point. So I do like to keep it rather tight. You'll notice that the meta lookalike expansion, when I have it somewhere below about 300,000 people, will be similarity. And that's actually what I want to see here. This is when Meta is finding the people who look most like your audience to then serve more ads to. If you go on the far end of the spectrum, you'll see that this will change to reach, where it doesn't really care about how closely similar they are. They just want to show ads to more people. So keep it tight is my recommendation. We're going to choose 32,000 additional people rather arbitrarily for this demonstration. The next step is to use geofilters. These will apply to both Meta and your display ads. So we have lots of geofilter sets. You can add custom ones here. You can use cities, states, countries. A little preview here. Our next deployment of Feathr upgrades will actually include zip codes as well. That's a secret. Don't tell anybody. But if I wanted to do United States, we can just select that here very easily, or a state or a city. Below that, we have demographics and interests, and we are now narrowing down. So we have our large audience to start with. We are narrowing down to just the people from that audience who are in the United States, and we can narrow further to people who are, say, 45 and up, narrowing down. And we can also include some other demographics, such as a household income of more than $100,000, maybe some education levels, or if we want philanthropy, we can do people who are charitable donors, that sort of thing. Paige, yes, we are going to add more filters. That is ongoing development, and I am excited to be able to share more with you, hopefully in maybe a couple more webinars. But from this point on, oh, by the way, these interests and these age demographics, these are mapped both to display and meta. So anybody who sees the ad, regardless of what platform they fall into, they will have to be part of these filters. Okay, so now it's time to add the actual ads. I'm going to start with Meta, and we're going to see a lot of what Isa had already talked about here. So I'm going to add an image. We have to start with a square image to show up in Facebook Reels. So I am going to import this beautiful square image. And this preview will adjust live as we go here. So this is primary text, will show up right up here. This is a headline, will show up there. The display link, feathr.co. I always include a display link. And the description doesn't show up in the preview. But if it does show up anywhere, it will be here below the headline. That does not always show up. In fact, I think most of the time the descriptions don't show up. So make sure that the description is supplementary and the primary text is, and the headline are what you really want people to read. Lastly, we do have different call to action buttons. So learn more is the default, but you can sign up, you can subscribe, you can see more, you can do all sorts of things. but I'm going to go ahead and save and close this ad. And I'm just gonna, for the purposes of showing you how this works, I'm gonna add another ad, which will be a display ad. Um, let's see here. We can use this wonderfully designed ad to uh, show a display ad as well. All of the ads will follow this destination URL unless any of the ads have their own custom URL that you can edit within the ad itself here. And from this point on, you all probably know, well, if you are Feathr ads uh, managers, you will already know what the rest of this looks like. But we set our duration, we set our budget, and we can choose a split here between like 50-50 display and meta. We can have the split over here, so it's prioritizing meta, or on the other side, so it's prioritizing display. And feel free to use whatever split you would like, although I will say that Meta does require you to have at least $2 a day when you're running Meta ads and Meta budgets, which is a bar that you should be able to tiptoe over. But just want to call that out here. And this is where it's going to stop me because I am actually, I can add a budget and move on. From here, we will just add a goal. I assume we have some sort of conversion pixel set up already. And the next step is review and publish. So start to finish, if you have your ad ready, this entire process should take you about 10 to 15 minutes after you practice a couple times. It is very simple, and frankly, I've ran meta ads in the past, a lot of meta ads. The worst part about running meta ads is working in Meta Ads Manager. So anything that allows you to circumvent Meta Ads Manager, in my opinion, is a huge win. But that is the end of that presentation. If you have any questions, I can absolutely stick around for a while and answer those.